Part 1. The Accidental. Groom. Marcus Chen stood at the edge of the massive crystal platform, his black diplomatic suit looking plain among the colorful robes of alien guests. The Vorthak wedding ceremony was unlike anything he had ever seen on Earth. Thousands of beings filled the floating platforms that surrounded the royal palace, their skin shimmering like precious stones in the twin suns' light. "Remember," whispered Ambassador Harrison through Marcus's earpiece, "just watch and learn. Don't touch anything. Don't eat anything. And for God's sake, don't participate in any rituals." Marcus nodded, wiping sweat from his forehead. This was his first major diplomatic mission, and the weight of representing all of humanity pressed down on his shoulders. The human colony ships had only made contact with the Vorthak Empire 3 months ago, and this wedding invitation was a huge honor. Princess Zara Eth stood on the central platform, her crystalline skin glowing with inner light. She was beautiful in an alien way, tall and graceful, with flowing hair that seemed to move like liquid silver. Her wedding dress was made of living crystal that changed colors with her emotions. Right now it pulsed with nervous blue and excited gold. The groom, Lord Vextar, looked like a walking statue carved from purple gemstone. He stood stiffly beside the princess, his chest puffed out with pride. Marcus could see why the Vorthak nobility liked him. He looked strong and traditional. "The ceremony begins," announced the high priest, his voice echoing across the platforms. Through some kind of crystal amplification system, music filled the air, but it wasn't music like humans knew. It was more like singing crystals, creating harmonies that made Marcus's bones vibrate. The sound was beautiful and strange at the same time. The priest began speaking in the ancient Vorthak language, his words flowing like poetry. Marcus's translation device worked slowly, giving him bits and pieces of meaning. Something about eternal bonds and crystalline souls joining as one. Princess Zara Eth stepped forward and began a ritual dance. Her movements were slow and hypnotic, like she was swimming through the air. The living crystal dress flowed around her, creating patterns of light that told a story Marcus couldn't understand. Lord Vextar tried to match her movements, but he looked clumsy compared to the princess's grace. Marcus noticed several guests, whispering and shaking their heads. Even he could tell the Lord was messing up the dance. "Now comes the crystal of binding," the priest announced. A servant brought forward a small, glowing crystal on a silk cushion. It was the most beautiful thing Marcus had ever seen, like a captured star that pulsed with its own heartbeat. "The bride must cast the crystal," the priest continued. "Whoever catches it becomes bound to her soul for eternity, sharing her joys and sorrows, her victories and defeats." Marcus watched, fascinated, as Princess Zara Eth picked up the crystal. It glowed brighter in her hands, responding to her touch. She looked around at the gathered crowd, her eyes lingering on Lord Vextar. But something was wrong. Marcus could see it in her posture, in the way her dress shifted to worried purple. She didn't want to throw the crystal to her chosen groom. The princess closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and threw the crystal high into the air. Time seemed to slow down. The crystal spun through the air, leaving a trail of sparkling light. Lord Vextar stepped forward, his arms reaching up to catch it. Other nobles near him also reached out, hoping to gain favor with the royal family. But the crystal sailed over their heads, spinning toward the outer platforms where the lesser guests stood. It flew directly toward Marcus. His earth-trained reflexes kicked in. Without thinking, he reached out and caught the crystal with both hands like he was catching a baseball. The moment his fingers touched the crystal, everything changed. Light exploded from the crystal, washing over the entire ceremony. Marcus felt a strange tingling sensation run through his body, like electricity mixed with warm honey. The crystal began to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. Silence fell over the thousands of guests. Every eye was fixed on the human who held the glowing crystal. "By the ancient laws," the priest said, his voice shaking with shock. "The bond is formed. Princess Zaraeth is wed to—" He paused, clearly not knowing what to do. "To the human guest." Chaos erupted across the platforms. Some guests cheered, others shouted in anger. Lord Vextar's face turned from purple to dark red with rage. "This is impossible," the spurned lord roared. "A human cannot marry into the royal family. It goes against all our traditions." King Thexal, who had been watching from his golden throne, stood up slowly. The massive alien ruler was twice Marcus's height, with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that glowed like stars. When he spoke, his voice cut through the noise like a sword. "The law is clear," the king announced. "The crystal of binding has chosen. My daughter is wed to this human." Princess Zaraeth stared at Marcus across the platforms, her dress cycling through confused colors: purple, blue, green, gold. She looked as shocked as he felt. Marcus stood frozen, still holding the crystal. His mind raced, trying to understand what had just happened. He had come here as a diplomatic observer, and somehow he had become part of the royal family of an alien empire. "Your Majesty," Marcus called out, his voice surprisingly steady. "I think there's been a mistake. I was just trying to catch the crystal. I didn't know—" "The crystal knows no mistakes," the king interrupted. "It chooses based on the heart's true calling, not the mind's plans." Ambassador Harrison was frantically speaking into his communicator, probably trying to figure out how to explain this to Earth Command. Lord Vextar was surrounded by his supporters, all of them talking angrily about human interference and broken traditions. But Marcus found himself looking at Princess Zaraeth. She was walking toward him across the platforms, her dress now glowing with curious silver light. When she reached him, she stopped just a few feet away. "You are Marcus Chen," she said in perfect English, her voice like musical crystal. "The human diplomat?" "Yes, Your Highness," Marcus replied, still clutching the crystal. "And I think I just accidentally married you." For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then, to Marcus's surprise, Princess Zaraeth began to laugh. It was a sound like tinkling bells, beautiful and infectious. "Perhaps," she said, her dress shifting to amused pink. "This accident might be exactly what both our peoples need." King Thexal stepped down from his throne and approached them. The crowd grew quiet, waiting to see what the ruler would do. "The bond is sealed," the king declared. "Let us see what comes of this unexpected union. Perhaps the crystal sees something we do not." As the ceremony grounds buzzed with excitement and confusion, Marcus realized his simple diplomatic mission had just become something much more complicated. He was now married to an alien princess, bound by laws he didn't understand, in a culture he was only beginning to learn about. But as he looked into Princess Zaraeth's intelligent eyes, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, this accident might lead to something extraordinary. Part 2. Trial by Fire. Marcus woke up in a room made entirely of crystal. The walls glowed softly with morning light, and he could see the alien city spreading out below through the transparent floor. 3 days had passed since the wedding accident, and he still couldn't believe this was real. A gentle chime filled the air, and Princess Zaraeth entered through a doorway that appeared in the wall. She wore simple robes today, and her skin had a tired, dim glow. "Good morning, husband," she said, though her voice carried no warmth. The word husband sounded strange and awkward. "Good morning, Your Highness," Marcus replied, sitting up on the crystal bed that somehow felt as soft as any earth mattress. "Please call me Zara. We are married now, even if neither of us wanted this." She moved to the window and looked out at the city. "My father wishes to speak with both of us. There are problems." Marcus got dressed quickly in the Vorthak clothes that had been provided for him. The fabric felt strange against his skin, but it was surprisingly comfortable. As they walked through the crystal corridors of the palace, Zara explained what was happening. "Our empire is dying, Marcus," she said quietly. "For thousands of years we have done things the same way. We never change, never try new ideas. We believe change is weakness." They passed groups of Vorthak nobles who whispered and stared at Marcus. Some looked curious, others angry. A few bowed respectfully to Zara, but Marcus could see the confusion in their glowing eyes. "What kind of problems?" Marcus asked. Zara stopped walking and turned to face him. "Three big problems. First, our crystal technology is breaking down. The crystals that power our cities and ships are growing weak, but our scientists refuse to try new methods to fix them." "What's the second problem?" "The Devourers," Zara said, her skin flickering with fearful red light. "They are an insect race from the outer rim. They eat everything in their path, planets, ships, even stars if they can. They have been attacking our border worlds, and our military cannot stop them." Marcus frowned. "And the third problem?" "Our people themselves," Zara sighed. "We are so afraid of change that we cannot adapt. When something new happens, we panic. We follow old rules even when they don't work anymore." They reached the throne room, where King Thexal waited. The massive ruler looked tired, and his usually bright skin was dull with worry. Several advisors stood around him, all looking nervous. "Ah, my new son-in-law," the king said as they approached. "Come sit. We have much to discuss." Marcus took a seat next to Zara on a smaller crystal throne. It felt very strange to be sitting on a throne at all. "Marcus Chen of Earth," the king began, "I have been reading about your people. Humans are known for something we Vorthak have forgotten: the ability to change and adapt." "That's true, Your Majesty," Marcus replied. "Humans are always trying new things, even when they seem impossible." One of the advisors, an old Vorthak with deep blue skin, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, with respect, this human knows nothing about our ways. How can he help us?" "Perhaps that is exactly why he can help," the king said. "Tell me, Marcus. What do you think of our crystal technology?" Marcus thought carefully before answering. "It's amazing, but I don't understand why you only use crystals. On Earth, we learned that combining different materials often makes them stronger." The advisors gasped in shock. The blue-skinned one looked horrified. "Combining crystal with other materials? That is forbidden. It would pollute the purity of the crystal." "But what if it worked better?" Marcus asked. Silence filled the throne room. No one seemed to know how to answer such a simple question. King Thexal leaned forward on his throne. "Show us what you mean." Marcus looked around the room and spotted a decorative crystal that was flickering weakly. He walked over to it, pulled a small metal tool from his pocket, and carefully attached it to the base of the crystal. "This is just a simple conductor from my translation device," he explained. "It should help the crystal's energy flow more smoothly." The moment the metal touched the crystal, it blazed with bright light. The crystal glowed stronger than any of them had seen before. The advisors stared in amazement. The blue-skinned one fell to his knees. "Impossible," he whispered. "Not impossible," Marcus said gently. "Just different." Over the next few hours, Marcus worked with the palace engineers. Using simple human engineering principles, they managed to boost the power of several failing crystal arrays. The Vorthak were amazed by concepts like redundancy, feedback loops, and efficiency optimization. "Your people think about problems differently," Zara observed as they watched engineers install Marcus's modifications. "You ask, how can we make this better? We ask, how can we keep this the same?" "Change doesn't have to mean losing what's good about your culture," Marcus said. "It can mean making the good parts even stronger." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alarm. Red lights flashed throughout the palace, and a guard rushed into the room. "Your Majesty!" the guard gasped. "The Devourers have attacked the mining world of Christos Prime. Our fleet is fighting them. But we're losing." King Thexol stood up quickly. "How many ships?" 50 Devourer vessels against our 30, the guard replied. "Admiral Kethral requests immediate backup." Marcus stepped forward. "Your Majesty, may I ask how your ships usually fight?" The king looked puzzled by the question. "In formation with honor, ship to ship in fair combat." "And how do the Devourers fight?" "Like cowards," the blue advisor spat. "They swarm and attack from all directions. They have no honor." Marcus felt a spark of understanding. What if that's not cowardice? What if that's just a different way to win? Zara's eyes widened. "You're thinking of fighting like the Devourers?" "Not exactly like them," Marcus said. "But maybe your idea of honorable fighting isn't the only way to protect your people." The throne room fell silent again. The concept of changing their military tactics was as shocking to the Vorthak as changing their technology had been. King Thexol studied Marcus carefully. "What do you suggest?" Marcus took a deep breath. "Let me go to Christos Prime. Let me show your admiral what human military tactics can do. We don't have stronger ships or better weapons, but we know how to fight smart." "Absolutely not. Several advisors said at once. "A human cannot command our fleet." But Zara stood up beside Marcus. "Father, our old ways are not working. Our people are dying while we argue about honor. Maybe it's time to try something new." The king was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "Very well. Marcus Chen, I am giving you command of a small volunteer squadron. Show us what human tactics can do." "I won't let you down, Your Majesty," Marcus said. As they prepared to leave for the battle, Zara grabbed Marcus's arm. "Be careful," she said. "If this works, you'll be a hero. If it fails, many will blame you for changing our ways." Marcus looked into her glowing eyes and saw something new there. Respect, and maybe the beginning of trust. "Then I guess I better make sure it works," he said. As their ship launched toward the battle at Christos Prime, Marcus realized that his accidental marriage was turning into something much more important. He wasn't just married to a princess anymore. He was trying to help save an entire civilization by teaching them that sometimes the best way to honor the past is to build a better future. Part 3. The Human Touch. The Vorthak warship, Crystal Dawn, jumped out of hyperspace near Christos Prime, and Marcus immediately saw the chaos of battle. 50 Devourer ships swarmed around the mining world like angry hornets, their black hulls gleaming with a sick oil-slick shine. The Vorthak fleet was arranged in perfect formation, fighting honorably while being torn apart. "Admiral Kethral, this is Marcus Chen," he spoke into the communication crystal. "I'm here with reinforcements." The Admiral's face appeared in the crystal display, his golden skin flickering with battle stress. "Human! What are you doing here? This is no place for diplomats." "King Thexol gave me command of a volunteer squadron," Marcus replied. "I'm here to help." Admiral Kethral looked shocked. "Command? But you know nothing of space warfare." "Maybe that's exactly what we need," Marcus said, watching the battle unfold on his screens. The Vorthak ships stayed in neat lines, firing their crystal weapons in organized volleys. The Devourers ignored the formation completely, swooping in from all angles like predators attacking a herd. Marcus turned to Captain Veltar, the commander of his volunteer squadron. The young Vorthak officer looked nervous but determined. "Captain, how many ships do we have?" 12 vessels, sir. All volunteers who wanted to try new methods." "Good. Are they ready to do things that might seem dishonorable?" Captain Veltar's skin flickered with uncertainty. "They are ready to follow your orders, sir." Marcus studied the battle for several minutes, his human mind working differently than any Vorthak commander. He saw patterns the aliens missed, weaknesses they couldn't recognize. The Devourers fight like a swarm, he muttered to himself. But every swarm has a queen. He opened a channel to his squadron. All ships, this is Marcus. We're not going to fight like traditional Vorthak today. We're going to fight like humans. What does that mean? Asked one of the volunteer captains. It means we cheat, Marcus said simply. We lie, we trick, and we hit the enemy where they don't expect it. Are you ready? There was a pause. Then Captain Veltar's voice came through clearly. We are ready. To learn, sir. Marcus smiled. Good. First lesson. Sometimes the best way to win a fight is to avoid fighting altogether. He ordered his ships to power down their weapons and drift like debris. To the Devourers, it looked like another group of destroyed Vorthak vessels. Meanwhile, Marcus used the ship's sensors to study the enemy swarm patterns. There, he said, pointing to a massive Devourer ship hanging back from the main battle. That's their command vessel. See how the smaller ships keep checking in with it? Princess Zara, who had insisted on joining the mission, nodded. You want to attack their leader? Better than that, Marcus grinned. I want to capture it. The plan was simple but required perfect timing. Marcus's squadron would use their crystal technology in a way no Vorthak had ever tried before. Not as weapons, but as tools of deception. Captain Veltar, can your engineers modify our crystals to project false images? The captain looked confused. False images? You mean lies? I mean tactical deception, Marcus corrected. Make their sensors see what we want them to see, not what's really there. While his engineers worked frantically to modify the crystal arrays, Marcus opened a channel to Admiral Kethrol. The Admiral was in the middle of a heated battle, his ship's shields failing under Devourer attacks. Admiral, I need you to do something that goes against everything you believe in, Marcus said. What now? Kethrol replied, his voice strained. I need you to run away. The silence on the communication channel was deafening. Finally, Admiral Kethrol spoke, his voice barely controlled. Human, are you suggesting that the Vorthak fleet flee from battle? I'm suggesting you make a tactical retreat to draw the enemy into a trap, Marcus explained. Trust me. This is madness, the Admiral muttered, but Marcus could see him giving orders to his fleet. Slowly, the Vorthak ships began to pull back from the battle. The Devourers took the bait. Thinking they had won, the entire swarm began chasing the retreating Vorthak fleet. But they left their command ship lightly defended, exactly as Marcus had hoped. Now, Marcus ordered. His squadron powered up and struck like lightning. Using the modified crystals, they projected images of a massive Vorthak reinforcement fleet arriving. The few Devourer ships guarding the command vessel panicked and fled to join their swarm. Marcus's ship, the Crystal Dawn, docked with the Devourer command vessel before anyone realized what was happening. The ship's crystal-enhanced hull cut through the enemy's armor like it was paper. Boarding party, go! Marcus shouted. The fight inside the Devourer ship was brief but intense. The insect-like aliens were fierce warriors, but they had never faced opponents who fought with such unpredictable tactics. Marcus and his team used every dirty trick in the human playbook: smoke grenades, flashbang devices, and coordinated attacks from multiple directions. Within 20 minutes, they had captured the Devourer command ship and its queen. The effect on the swarm was immediate and devastating. Without their queen's telepathic commands, the Devourer ships became confused and disorganized. Admiral Kethrol, seeing the opportunity, ordered his fleet to attack. This is impossible, Captain Veltar whispered, watching the battle turn in their favor. We're actually winning. Not impossible, Marcus replied, remembering his words from the palace. Just different. The battle was over in less than an hour. The surviving Devourer ships fled in panic, leaving behind their captured queen and several destroyed vessels. The Vorthak fleet had achieved their first major victory against the Devourers in years. Back on the flagship, Admiral Kethrol stared at Marcus with a mixture of amazement and confusion. Your tactics worked, he said slowly, but they were so dishonorable. Were they? Marcus asked. You saved your people, protected the mining world, and captured valuable intelligence? How is that dishonorable? Princess Zara stepped forward, her skin glowing with proud gold light. Perhaps honor is not about how we fight, but about what we fight for. The Admiral considered this for a long moment. The human has a point, he admitted. We have been so focused on fighting the right way that we forgot about winning. Word of the victory spread quickly throughout the Vorthak Empire. Marcus had done something no Vorthak general had managed in decades. He had defeated the Devourers using strategy instead of brute force. But not everyone was happy about the changes Marcus was bringing. On the journey back to the capital, Captain Veltar approached Marcus privately. Sir, there is something you should know. Lord Vextar, the one who was supposed to marry the princess, has been gathering supporters. What kind of supporters? Marcus asked. Traditionalists who believe your influence is corrupting our culture. They say that humans are making us weak by teaching us to abandon our honor. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Do they pose a threat? I don't know, Veltar replied honestly. But they are angry, and angry Vorthak can be dangerous. As their ship approached the capital world, Marcus looked out at the crystal spires gleaming in the sunlight. He had won a great victory today, but he was beginning to understand that changing a culture was much harder than winning a battle. Princess Zara joined him at the window. You're worried about the opposition, she said. Your people have lived the same way for thousands of years, Marcus replied. I can't expect them all to change overnight. Some will never change, Zara admitted, but others are already learning. Today, you showed them that new ways can work. That's a start. Marcus nodded, but he couldn't shake the feeling that their biggest challenges were still ahead. He had married into this alien royal family by accident, but now he was committed to helping them survive, and there were those who would do anything to stop him. Part 4. Revolution and Resistance. Marcus stood in the palace laboratory, watching young Vorthak engineers work with human-designed equipment. 3 weeks had passed since the victory at Christos Prime, and the changes were spreading faster than anyone had expected. Crystal technology powered by metal conductors was now standard throughout the Empire. Trade routes that had been closed for decades were reopening as Vorthak merchants began using Marcus's flexible thinking approaches. The power output is up 30%, reported Engineer Tolwyn, her purple skin glowing with excitement. Your humans call this thinking outside the box, yes? That's right, Marcus smiled. Sometimes the best solutions come from places we never thought to look. Princess Zara entered the laboratory, but her usual calm expression was troubled. Her crystalline dress flickered with worried orange colors. Marcus, we need to talk privately, she said. They walked to a quiet garden overlooking the city. Below them, Vorthak citizens moved through streets that now hummed with improved crystal technology. Everything seemed peaceful, but Marcus could sense tension in Zara's posture. What's wrong? He asked. My intelligence network has discovered something troubling, Zara said quietly. Lord Vextar is planning something for the Harvest Festival tomorrow. The Harvest Festival was the biggest celebration in Vorthak culture, when all the noble families gathered to honor their ancestors and renew their loyalty to the crown. Marcus had been looking forward to experiencing this traditional ceremony. What kind of plan? Marcus asked. Zara pulled out a small recording crystal and activated it. Lord Vextar's voice filled the air, speaking to a group of supporters. The human has corrupted our pure culture, Vextar's recorded voice said. He teaches our people to lie, to cheat, to abandon honor. Tomorrow, during the sacred ceremony, we will remove this cancer from our empire forever. Marcus felt his blood turn cold. He's planning to kill me? The recording suggests an assassination attempt during the festival, Zara confirmed. But there's something else. The voices in the background. Some of them don't sound Vorthak. Marcus listened more carefully to the recording. She was right. There were strange clicking sounds mixed with the Vorthak voices, like insects communicating. Devourers, Marcus breathed. Somehow they're working with the traditionalists. Zara nodded grimly. It seems our enemies have learned to use our own cultural divisions against us. They're convincing the traditionalists that you're the real threat to Vorthak civilization. Marcus paced the garden, his mind racing. This was exactly the kind of problem humans were good at solving, but it required thinking several steps ahead of the enemy. We need more information, he said. Do you have people who can infiltrate Vextar's group? Some, Zara replied. But it's dangerous. If they're caught, it could start a civil war. And if we do nothing, I die tomorrow and your empire stays vulnerable to the Devourers, Marcus pointed out. Sometimes you have to take risks to protect what matters. That evening, Marcus and Zara worked together to set up their own intelligence operation. Instead of relying on traditional spy networks, Marcus taught her human concepts like information gathering and pattern analysis. Your people usually just ask direct questions, Marcus observed as they planned. But humans have learned that sometimes the most important information comes from watching what people don't say. They spent the night monitoring communications, tracking movement patterns, and building a complete picture of the conspiracy. What they discovered was worse than they had feared. It's not just about killing you, Zara said, staring at their evidence. Vexitar has convinced the Devourer survivors that if they help him remove human influence, he'll return to the old military tactics that they can easily defeat. So they get rid of me, and then they can conquer your empire without resistance. Marcus understood. It's actually a smart plan. Too smart for Vextar alone, Zara agreed. Someone else is coordinating this. The next morning, the Harvest Festival began with traditional ceremonies. Thousands of Vorthak nobles filled the great ceremonial hall, their formal robes creating a rainbow of crystalline colors. Marcus wore the ceremonial dress of a royal consort, crystal-enhanced clothing that marked him as part of the royal family. King Thexal opened the festival with ancient words of gratitude, his voice echoing through the crystal amplifiers. Marcus noticed several nobles who seemed nervous, checking timepieces and glancing toward the exits. The attack will come during the renewal ceremony, Zara whispered to him, when all attention is focused on the sacred crystal. Marcus nodded. They had prepared for this moment, but he still felt nervous. Fighting Devourers in space was one thing. Political assassination was completely different. The ceremony proceeded normally until the moment arrived for the renewal of loyalty. One by one, noble families approached the sacred crystal to renew their vows to the crown. When Lord Vexitar's turn came, Marcus saw him signal to several supporters positioned around the hall. Now, Marcus whispered into his communication device. Instead of waiting for the attack, Marcus had convinced Zara to act first. As Vextar reached for the sacred crystal, palace guards moved to surround his co-conspirators. But Marcus had taught them to be subtle. Instead of dramatic arrests, they simply moved into position and waited. Vextar noticed the guards and panicked. Instead of proceeding with the planned assassination, he grabbed the sacred crystal and shouted, "This human has corrupted our most holy traditions. I challenge him to ritual combat." The hall erupted in shocked whispers. Ritual combat was an ancient rite that couldn't be refused, but it usually meant death for the loser. King Thexal stood slowly. "Lord Vextar, are you certain you wish to invoke the old laws?" "I am," Vexitar declared. "Let the sacred crystal judge between pure Vorthak tradition and human corruption." Marcus stepped forward, his heart pounding. "I accept the challenge." But as Vexitar raised his crystal weapon, Marcus made a very human choice. Instead of fighting with honor, he spoke directly to the crowd. "Before we fight, Marcus called out, his voice carrying through the hall. "Shouldn't everyone know about your alliance with the Devourers?" He activated a projection crystal that displayed the evidence they had gathered. Recordings of Vextar coordinating with Devourer agents, plans to weaken the Empire's defenses, communications about returning to failed military tactics. The effect was immediate and devastating. Vextar's supporters realized they had been manipulated by their greatest enemies. The crowd turned from confused to angry in seconds. "You allied with the creatures that devour our worlds," shouted one noble. "You planned to weaken our defenses so they could return," cried another. Vextar looked around desperately, his crystalline skin flickering with panic. "This is lies! Human deception!" "The evidence speaks for itself," King Thexol said, his voice cold with royal authority. "Guards, arrest the traitors." As the conspirators were led away, Marcus realized something important had happened. He hadn't just prevented an assassination. He had shown the Vorthak people that their real enemies weren't humans bringing change, but those who would rather see their empire fall than adapt. Princess Zara approached him, her dress glowing with proud gold light. "You used their own traditions against them," she observed. "The ritual challenge gave you a platform to reveal the truth. Sometimes the best way to honor tradition is to use it to protect the future," Marcus replied. But even as the immediate threat was removed, Marcus knew this was just the beginning. The Devourers had learned to use Vorthak culture against them. Once. They would try again, and next time they would be more careful. The real war was just starting. Part 5. The New Empire. 6 months after the failed assassination plot, Marcus stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity, watching the largest Devourer fleet ever assembled approaching the Vorthak capital system. The enemy had learned from their defeats. This time they brought everything they had. 200 ships, Admiral Kethrall reported, his voice steady despite the impossible odds. "They're not taking any chances this time." Marcus studied the enemy formation through the viewing crystal. The Devourers had changed their tactics too. Instead of their usual chaotic swarm attacks, they moved in organized battle groups, copying some of the Vorthak military structure. "They've been watching us," Princess Zara observed from beside him. She now wore the crystal armor of a battle commander, her role having evolved from royal princess to Marcus's strategic partner. "They learned from our previous encounters." "Good," Marcus said, surprising everyone on the bridge. "That means they're predictable now." The Vorthak human combined fleet was smaller, only 120 ships, but every vessel had been upgraded with hybrid technology. Crystal weapons powered by human engineering, shields that adapted based on human flexibility concepts, and crews trained in both honorable Vorthak traditions and practical human tactics. "All ships, this is Marcus," he announced over the fleet. "Communications. Today, we're not just fighting for the Vorthak Empire. We're fighting for the idea that different peoples can work together to become stronger than either could be alone." King Thexol's voice joined the communication from the palace. "My warriors, you carry with you the honor of our ancestors and the wisdom of our new allies. Fight with both courage and cleverness." The battle began as the Devourer fleet entered weapons range. But instead of the traditional formation fighting, Marcus had prepared something the enemy couldn't expect, a completely new way of space combat that combined the best of both cultures. "Phase 1, Marcus ordered. Honor Guard, advance." Admiral Kethrall led 50 Vorthak ships in a traditional formation charge, their crystal weapons blazing with ancestral power. The Devourers, expecting the same old tactics, moved to surround and overwhelm them. But this time, the Vorthak ships didn't fight to the death in fixed positions. As soon as the Devourers committed their forces, the Honor Guard performed a coordinated retreat, not fleeing, but drawing the enemy into a carefully prepared trap. "Now they're exactly where we want them," Marcus smiled. Phase 2, Adaptive Strike. The remaining 70 ships, commanded by younger Vorthak officers trained in human tactics, attacked from completely unexpected directions. They used the hybrid crystal metal technology to punch through Devourer shields like paper, striking at weak points Marcus had identified from studying captured enemy vessels. But the Devourers had prepared surprises too. As the battle intensified, massive new ships emerged from hyperspace, vessels Marcus had never seen before, covered in spines and radiating dark energy. Bioships, Zara breathed. They're using living vessels. The bioships were immune to many of the hybrid weapons that had been so effective against regular Devourer technology. Worse, they began releasing clouds of something that interfered with Vorthak crystal technology. "They're adapting faster than we expected," Admiral Kethrall reported, as his ship's shields began to fail. "The bioships are neutralizing our advantages." Marcus watched the battle turn against them and felt the weight of responsibility. Everyone was counting on his human creativity to find a solution, but the enemy had learned to counter his previous tactics. Then he noticed something. The bioships were staying in formation, protecting something in the center of their group. "Zara, look at the bioship positioning," he said. "What does that remind you of?" She studied the enemy formation carefully. "It's like they're protecting something precious, the way we guard the royal palace." "Exactly," Marcus grinned. "They have a command structure just like we do, and that means they have a weak point." Marcus opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, new plan. We're going to do something that goes against both human and Vorthak military thinking." "What's that?" Admiral Kethrall asked. "We're going to surrender," Marcus announced. The bridge fell silent. Even Zara stared at him in shock. "Marcus, what are you doing?" she whispered. "Trust me," he replied, then spoke to the fleet again. "All ships, power down weapons and engines. Broadcast surrender signals on all frequencies." The Vorthak captains hesitated, but they had learned to trust Marcus's unconventional strategies. One by one, the ships powered down and began broadcasting surrender messages. The Devourer fleet slowed their attack, confused by this unexpected development. As Marcus had hoped, the bioships moved forward to capture the defeated Vorthak vessels, dropping their defensive formation. "Phase 3, Marcus whispered. "Now!" Every surrendered ship suddenly blazed back to life, but instead of attacking the surrounding Devourers, they all fired at once at the exposed command bioship in the center of the enemy formation. The concentrated firepower of 120 ships struck the Devourer command vessel simultaneously. The bioship, designed to regenerate from normal battle damage, couldn't handle the massive coordinated assault. It died in a spectacular explosion of biological matter and dark energy. The effect on the Devourer fleet was immediate and total. Without their command ships controlling influence, the bioships began attacking each other. The regular Devourer vessels, losing their coordination, fled in panic or were destroyed by the suddenly resurgent Vorthak fleet. Within 2 hours, the largest Devourer invasion in history had been completely defeated. As the victory celebrations began throughout the Empire, Marcus and Zara stood together on the Bridge of the Unity, watching the wreckage of their enemies drift in space. "You did it again," Zara said, her crystalline dress cycling through every color of joy and pride. "You found a way to win that no one else would have thought of." "We did it," Marcus corrected. "This victory belonged to everyone. Vorthak honor, human creativity, and the combination of both cultures working together." Admiral Kethrall approached them, his formal military bearing softened by genuine respect. "Marcus Chen, you have taught us that true honor lies not in how we fight, but in protecting those we care about by any means necessary." Over the following weeks, as the Empire celebrated its greatest victory, Marcus realized how much had changed since that accidental wedding ceremony. He was no longer just a human diplomat who had married an alien princess by mistake. The Vorthak people had elected him as their strategic defense coordinator, a new position created specifically for him. Princess Zara had become his equal partner. In both marriage and leadership, their relationship having grown from political necessity to genuine love and mutual respect. Most importantly, the Vorthak Empire itself had transformed. They kept their ancient traditions of honor and crystal mastery, but combined them with human concepts of adaptation and creative problem-solving. Other alien civilizations began sending ambassadors, wanting to learn about this new model of cultural integration. "Do you ever regret catching that crystal?" Zara asked him one evening as they watched the sunset over the crystal spires of the capital. Marcus thought about his old life as a simple diplomatic attaché, then looked at the thriving civilization around them, Vorthak and human engineers. Working together? Children learning both traditional crystal singing and human mathematics, merchant ships carrying hybrid technology to distant worlds. "Never," he said, taking her hand. "Sometimes the best things in life happen when you're not trying to make them happen." "The crystal knew," Zara said, her skin glowing with warm gold light. "Ancient Vorthak wisdom says the crystal of binding chooses not just a mate, but a destiny." Marcus smiled, watching young Vorthak and human children playing together in the gardens below. The accidental marriage had become something neither culture could have achieved alone, a new kind of civilization that honored the past while building an even better future. In the distance, construction crews were building the first human Vorthak colony ships, designed to carry their hybrid culture to new worlds. The future looked brighter than either species had ever imagined possible, and it had all started with one human diplomat trying to catch what he thought was just a pretty crystal at an alien wedding.